You know, I don't know, right?
We didn't have any committee meetings.
We had tech and then extracurriculars tomorrow.
But in terms of minutes, we only approve our own minutes.
Correct. Yep, ready to go.
One by the computer.
You ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Abington High School Board meeting of January 18th. Would everyone please rise and pledge the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. O'Day, could you take roll call, please?
Mr. Abdullah.
Here.
Mr. Azar.
Here.
Mr. Fleming.
Here.
Mrs. Henderson. Here. Mrs. Karam.
Here.
Mr. Medensky.
Here.
Mr. Robeson.
Here.
Mrs. Tierney.
Here.
Mr. Acker.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
9-0.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of January 4th?
So move.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
9-0.
Are there any board reports for committees?
Yes, Mr. Acker, the Technology Committee met on January 11th, last Wednesday at 6:30. Everyone was in attendance. We really talked about some of the metrics since now there's a little bit of time since we went live with the website. So just some high level stats. We had 65,000 page views, and this is from October, November, and December. We had 17,000 visits to the site. We reviewed some budget items, including the one-to-one laptop per student. We also looked at an asset management software that's going to help us track those. And we also looked at pushing out the go-live date for the Raptor. That's the check-in kiosk for visitors. It's helps with security and organization. And with everything else going on, that's going to go live when we go back to school in the fall.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Do we have a student's representative's report for tonight?
The AEIO met in January 10th. That's fine. That's fine. We approved funds for our state-approved AP initiative program, and we are approving funds for the math program, the AP calculus, for the students to have extra materials for them to do their work and studying. It's a great opportunity that the state approved for the AEIO to help all of our AP students in need for any of their tests to enter the testing or to do any materials. So it's a really great opportunity. I think it's a $5,000 annual grant. So we've dispersed those funds, and also for the FBLA, we've given the FBLA thousands of dollars for them to travel on their competitions. Our FBLA program is phenomenal, and it's a great opportunity for the AEIO to support them and enhance their ability to excel in their club. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Tierney. I apologize for jumping over you there. It appears we do not have student representatives tonight.
No.
Okay. In that case, we would move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Schaefer.
Thank you. I'm just going to call everybody's attention to January the 4th. Mr. Mirabelli presented the 2023-24 early preliminary budget. That presentation is on our website. You can find that in board docs. I'm going to ask Mr. Mirabelli to review some of the options that he provided to the board during the January 4th presentation to make sure that we all have a shared understanding of the choices ahead of the board in the months to come.
Sure. So really there are two options available. And the first option is to pass a resolution to stay within the Act 1 index. And that resolution is on the agenda this evening. The other option, should you vote that down this evening, is to pass an early budget and pursue exceptions. And that would have to be voted on at your next board meeting, absent a special board meeting to comply with the state's deadlines. So the first option, which would be to stay within the Act 1 index, means your taxing authority or your ability to raise taxes is anywhere between 0 and 4.8%. Should you vote down the motion tonight and pass an early budget at your next meeting, your taxing authority is somewhere between 0 and 6.2%. Okay, and that would be the Act 1 index plus the exception for special ed. Okay, so the binary choice tonight is vote for the Act 1 index in the affirmative, and then you are capped at 4.8%. Vote it down, and then at the next meeting we will have to vote on a preliminary budget. Again, none of these decisions mean anything about setting a tax rate. It is about the options the board wishes to have available to them come June.
Thank you, Mr. Mirabelli.
Anything else, Dr. Schaefer?
No.
Okay, very good. The next item would be public comment. If you wish to speak, please give us a card. let us know you wish to speak. Currently, we have one card for Isabella Wolf from Clark's Green.
I think that we should have a GPS on the buses so we know when we are going to get home, because nobody wants to miss their bus stop because of a substitute driver. Tuesday, my cousin Vanessa did not get home until 5 p.m. after she left the school at 3:30 because of the substitute driver who missed her stop. Her dad was freaking out. It would help parents know how long to wait at a bus stop and why we should have a GPS in all of the buses so nothing like this could happen again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Isabella, how are you doing? What grade are you in? You can come up to the microphone.
I'm in 5th grade,
You're in 5th grade? What school do you attend?
Abington Heights Middle School.
Okay, great. I should have known that. I don't, right, that was a bad question. Well, Isabella, I'm here to tell you that despite all my years in education and degrees that I have, I'm an 0 for 2 tonight because, you know, I did not get Abington Heights Middle School right, and I do not know the question to DPS. However, once we're out of this meeting, I'm going to make a phone call and find out. But what I am able to tell you is that I have 3 children, and I get nervous when they're a couple minutes late. So as a parent, I can definitely understand why someone would be sweating it out when they don't know where their children are. So thank you very much for coming up and, you know, giving us some comments and some things to feed on.
Great. Thank you again, Isabella. With that, is there any other public comment? Okay, please come forward. If you could also give us a card.
Hi, my name is Tara Houlihan, and I'm an Abington Heights resident. I just want to speak quick on the possible tax vote tonight. I just want to say, when people think of the Abingtons, many people think of wealthy lawyers and doctors and even trust fund babies. However, if you drive through parts of the Abington, including Clark Summit, Newton, Chinchilla, to just name a few, you will see that is not the norm. Not everyone in the Abingtons belongs to the country club. Many people are struggling. I spoke with a family who have very good jobs, and when they heard of the impending possible tax increase, they were very concerned because they are having a hard time paying their current bills now. We also have a large population of senior citizens living in the Abingtons. Many of them are on fixed incomes, including the parents of my best friend that I grew up with. And I think if these taxes keep getting raised, you are basically going to push people out of the Abingtons that have worked really hard to get here. We also have low-income families, and remember, if taxes are raised, that's going to impact the families that are renting as well, because those people that own the rent buildings are going to have to pass those taxes along. So people are already realizing the first tax increase that was voted on a few months ago. When they receive their tax bill, many people may be too busy working and raising their families to attend school board meetings. But when they get their tax bill, and if they find another increase, I think they will take notice. I realize the school district's bills are going up just like everyone else's bills due to inflation. But most families have had to make cuts, sacrifices, and get creative in the current financial climate to survive. And I ask, what has Abington Heights done to do this? It is also greatly concerns me thinking about how the district will pay for the new teachers and counselors that they hired recently with a one-time $1.4 million ESSER funds. And when that runs out in about a year to a year and a half, are you going to have to raise the taxes again? How many times are you going to have to come back to the well of the people? Are we going to become the new Scranton? Will we have constant huge tax increases every year and not much to show for it? I'm sure considering raising the taxes for a second time in about 6 months is not a pleasant thing to have to do, but where do we stop? Will there ever be enough? Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Julian. Is there anyone else? Okay, then let's move on to the action and discussion items. And the first item is the treasurer's report. Mr. Medensky?
Okay, there's, going to do it a little bit differently today. We basically have 2 months of reporting because we have not met, but we started the month of November with a cash balance of $27,330,737. We had monthly revenues in November of $3,602,282. And in December, we had monthly revenues of $4,090,882, which the majority of it was from local revenues. Net disbursements in November were $4,075,535, and net disbursements in December were $4,118,771, which leaves us a cash balance of $26,829,595.
Thank you very much. May we have a motion to approve the treasurer's reports and the bills?
So moved.
Second.
On the motion?
I have a question on the budget analysis. Is this the time to do that? To ask that question? Jim, or Mr. Mirabelli, are you comfortable with to date, looking at what the budget, the actual and what is received from looking at from November of last year to November of this year with our revenue?
So when you look at this report, there's a few things you can draw. Most things are trending right where you would expect them to, right? It's pretty predictable. When you look at the federal and state appropriations, they're a little bit ahead of schedule. That's because I think the state has a little more cash available. They're not holding back any payments as they had been doing in the past. Federal funds, a larger portion of our budget, we're drawing on federal funds, so you see that there. The one column that's not particularly comparable is the real estate tax. Although it's trending where I believe it should be, there are some December items that do come in January as well. So we need to account for that lag in timing. But it's right on track where I would think with the real estate taxes. One minor surprise, although it is variable, the wage tax is running ahead of where I would have expected it to, which would point toward a positive trend. But that's a little bit more variable. That it's not as defined as real estate taxes. On the expense side, everything seems to be flowing. There's no huge anomalies or anything like that. Nothing running particularly under or over budget. So, I think 6 months in, we're pretty in line.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Medensky,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson,
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mr. Acker,
Yes.
9-0.
Mr. Ackert, ask the board, consider a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
May I have a second?
Second.
Oh, second. I'm sorry, I did not hear that. On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Medensky,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson,
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Acker,
Yes.
9-0.
Mr. Ackert, ask the board, consider a motion to appoint Matthew Browning as IT support professional under the terms of confidential employees at the 2022-2023 prorated salary of $52,000.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
9-0.
Mr. Ackert, ask the board consider a motion to approve the January 2023 volunteer list.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
9-0.
Mr. Ackert, ask that the board consider a motion to approve the technology support technician job description.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
9-0.
Mr. Ackert, ask the board consider a motion to approve the Abington Heights Act 1 Resolution Index.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? I am going to be voting against this resolution, not because I think we should be raising taxes, but I think that we need to have every option we can when it comes time to approve the budget, given the increases in things like special education and some of the charter school costs we're facing. So I believe I'm going to vote against this. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
No.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
No.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
No.
6-3.
Mr. Ackert, ask the board to consider a motion to approve the agreement between the Abington Heights and Red Rocks Job Corps to expand education and training options for respective students.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Abdullah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar. Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
9-0.
Finally, we have information on use of the facility for review. Is there any unfinished business? New business?
I just want to make a comment. It's really great to see all of our buildings being used so well. It's so great to see dinner fundraisers, fundraisers with the PTAs, dances. It's so great to see all of our buildings alive and our kids able to do the things that they love doing.
One last thing, Mr. Ecker, and I should have said this on the one vote, but just a comment on the job descriptions. I know it's not very exciting to do job descriptions, but it's very important. And I know that the group here did spend a lot of time putting very thoughtful job descriptions in place. There's legal ramifications, there's security and safety in having good job descriptions, not only for the expectations of the employer, but the employee. So, and I know it takes long to do these things. And I know that you've started doing this probably since last January. So they're accumulating. So it's really nice to see them up for vote. So thank you.
I would agree. Yes, sir.
Phil, what was when we had the meeting, the technology meeting, how many IT tickets did two people handle.
Yep. So,
Give them a shout.
yeah, so that's, the IT department is very small. There's 3 people. And since November of 2019, there were 10,000